Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Estrella Virtual Visit Series. My name is Allison Campbell with Estrella Consulting, and I'm so excited to welcome Paula LaManna from University of Cincinnati. This virtual visit series is designed to introduce all of you to a number of colleges and allow for you to get to know the institutions and their staff in a more personal way. So thank you, Paula, for joining us.
No problem.
If you don't mind, just real quickly introducing yourself and letting us know how long you've been with University of Cincinnati.
So, as said, my name is Paula LaManna. I'm an admissions counselor with the University of Cincinnati. I've been with Cincinnati over 24 years now, and I have the unique position that I'm not located in Cincinnati. I work out of my home in Brunswick, Ohio, and I serve students in Cuyahoga, Lorain, Medina, and all the surrounding. I have 9 counties in the surrounding Northeast Ohio area.
Okay, that's great. That's a lot of territory. I mean, that's a pretty big territory if you think. Do you go to like east towards Youngstown, west towards Mansfield?
It's pretty much from Huron to Mentor, Painesville area. And
Okay.
then I have Akron as well.
Okay. Very cool. Well, I had the distinct pleasure of going to UC actually for the first time. I'm
Mhm.
from the Youngstown area, so I feel like Cincinnati felt like it was technically like 5 hours away. So it just felt so far away. So I didn't have friends that went to school there. But now as an IEC, we're really encouraged to go check out campuses, and UC is at the top of many of our Ohio students' lists.
Mhm.
And got to visit with my two colleagues. We visited UC and a couple other Cincinnati area schools and down to UK. But it was such a unique campus. Like I loved that it was so urban. I mean,
Mhm.
very urban around it, but the campus had like all these very traditional features and then super modern features. So for those
Yes.
people that are watching this that have never been to UC, can you tell us a little bit more about the campus, its location, and anything else that you think would be interesting to share?
So we're located about 3 miles north of downtown Cincinnati. So we're not in the heart of Cincinnati, but we're kind of like our own little city outside of Cincinnati. So we're 5 city square blocks. We're all enclosed. You cannot drive your car through campus. It is strictly a walking campus. And it's very walkable. I think what a lot of students are shocked is that it is quite hilly to get around campus, but all of our sporting events do take place on campus. So our football stadium, our baseball, our soccer is all on what I would call the south side of campus. And then the rest of campus is kind of built around the football stadium. So it takes you about 2 days to get to know campus, because if you're lost, look for the football stadium. You kind of can't miss it. And then we also have each individual building. So there's a College of Business building, College of Design building, the College of Engineering building. So when you get into your major, your classes are going to be held in one area. So it's not that you're going to be going across all different ways to get across campus. From corner to corner, it takes about 10 to 12 minutes, depending on how fast you walk. And students can cut through the football stadium. It's always open, except on game day. And I mean, I've had my puppies on the 50-yard line. You'll see students playing cornhole and hanging out. And if you got to get to class on the other side of campus, you just go right through the football stadium. Always open.
Yeah, you're not lying. That was so interesting to me. I mean, we
Mhm.
literally like cut through the field and we
Yep.
saw students playing disc golf or frisbee or
Mhm.
something down there. I'm
Yep.
like, I cannot believe they're letting students on the field. But like it was just like a thoroughfare that everybody was
Yeah.
walking through.
Yes.
I mean, so, like I said, some of it was just so traditional, like the big academic buildings, and then some
Mhm.
were like futuristic and modern. It was just such an interesting combination. So can you
Yeah.
speak to the size of University of Cincinnati? You talked a little bit about the physical size as far as like
Mhm.
five.
So total, we have last count 53,000 students. We have been growing each and every year for about the last 15 years. I mentioned I started in 2000. When I started in 2000, our incoming freshman class was about 2,700. This past year, we welcomed over 9,000 students as first year students. So we have grown a lot. On the main campus itself, because we have the UC what we call the Uptown campus, which is Main. We have 2 regional campuses as well, UC Blue Ash and Claremont, that offer associate degrees. So on the, as I say, 53,000. when you take out the graduate students and the med students and the regional, on the Uptown campus itself, we have about 26,000 undergraduate students and about 9,000 live on campus. About 10,000 are within a 1 mile radius. So we are considered to be the second largest, well, second or third, depending on the year. Ohio State, of course, first, and then it seems to fluctuate second and third between us and Kent State. And every year it's one of us too. So we're definitely the top 3 largest. But I think what's unique with us too is that we do have over 400 programs, and some of them are very small. So our archaeology program is very small, but very well known across the country. Our nursing program, for example, we take about 200 first-year students each year. So while we are a large campus, when we start to break down the individual majors, it does become much smaller. So you do get, a lot of students say they feel they get a small college feel.
Okay. Yeah, I would love to talk to you more about some of your premier majors. And I feel like I have a lot of students that are looking at Cincinnati as the leaders in engineering because they know
Yes.
about your fantastic co-op, which I'll have you talk a little bit about in a second, the DAP program, the health sciences. So can you talk a little bit about what are those premier programs at UC?
Most well known in Northeast Ohio is anything medical engineering DAP, which you did mention there. So we do have our own hospital, the UC Medical Campus, and that's right across the street from the main campus. Probably most well known recently for Damar Hamlin. We're the ones that took care of him when he got injured at that game. And
Huge Buffalo Bills fan, Paula, like the
yeah.
biggest Buffalo Bills fan in the world, and my heart is still hurting, but it was so satisfying to see the Chiefs lose.
Mhm.
But yeah, that was incredible with the Damar Hamlin story. I mean, if you're a sports person and you
Yeah.
haven't been living under a rock, you know what Paula is referencing.
Right, exactly. It's amazing. And he still does come back to campus to visit with the
Yeah.
emergency responders that took care of him. But we do train doctors, nurses, PT, OT, medical lab science. Students can get into, we have a program called Medical Sciences, which we only take about 70 students. And students are matched with a mentor at the hospital. And those are for students that are very serious about going into the medical profession. So medical sciences, health sciences, our College of Nursing. So everyone is trained. We are a teaching hospital. We are a tier 1 research university. So a lot of teaching goes on at our hospital. So the med programs are very well known. In addition to that, you mentioned the engineering.
Mhm.
Engineering, we have aerospace, biomedical, chemical, civil. We have a number of routes that students can do in our College of Engineering. And then our College of Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning. We have architecture, interior design, not interior decorating. We have interior design. There's a big
Okay.
difference.
Good to know. I'm
And
taking notes, so if you see me typing,
okay,
just taking notes.
urban planning, urban studies. With any of our programs in the College of Engineering, the College of Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning, and the College of Business, we have what's called mandatory cooperative education. And co-op, depending on your program, it could extend. Your engineering will always be 5 years. So what happens is students take their first year courses, they have that summer off, and then that fall, they'll go to school full time. Then in the spring of the sophomore year, they're working. Then they're going to school in the summer, going to co-op in the fall. So for most programs, in the end, they will graduate with 5 semesters of job experience. It's still 8 academic semesters, but then there's 5 co-op experiences with that. I believe the College of Business requires 2. We even have co-op in our fine arts program. So students that are majoring in fine arts, they still get a co-op. So those are available. With anything medical, you're going to have clinicals. And if a program doesn't have a co-op, we have internships. So we pride ourselves on what we call the Bearcat Promise. And the Bearcat Promise is that no matter what your major, everybody's going to graduate, of course, with the pretty diploma to hang on the wall. But on the other hand, you're going to have your resume. So the resume is created through the co-ops, the internships, and you will work with your advisor beginning in your first year to map out, when am I going to do this internship? When am I going to do this co-op? The next question is, how do I find these? Over 90% of our students find their co-ops and internships through us. So
Okay.
twice a year, we have a not a college and career fair. We have a career fair. Um,
Okay.
and I just had a college fair this morning. That's probably what's on my mind.
That's okay.
So we have a career fair where companies come to campus, interview our students, and we have our co-op coaches who help our students with resumes and, how do you greet? Do we shake hands anymore? What do you do in a job interview? So most students find them through us. The others, my next door neighbor's uncle's cousin has a co-op at their company, and we will work with companies who are new to us. So we have over 1,800 companies that we work with our co-ops and our internships. So we want everybody to graduate with job experience. That is first and foremost for UC.
Okay. A question that I get a lot of times, because I think the co-op piece is misunderstood. They're like, why would I want to go to school for 5 years? Would they be still paying tuition during the times that they're doing the co-op, or is it kind of like a break in their tuition? It's been established that they're going to be working full time, or like how does that really work as far as like the financial aid piece?
So they're not paying tuition at that time.
Okay.
They pay I believe right now it's $365 co-op fee. What
Okay.
that does is that keeps you enrolled as a student.
Okay.
So if a student is on a parent insurance or various reasons, medical insurance, you have to be a student, that 365, even though you're working full time, that keeps you at student status, especially for student loans. Because when you are not going to school, for some loans, you have to start paying them back. That $365 co-op or internship fee will keep you registered as a student. The next question I get is about living expenses, because many of our co-ops are not in Cincinnati.
Okay.
So many of our co-ops, or internships, they will say, we're going to pay you, I'm going to use nice round numbers here. We're going to pay you $25 an hour, plus we're going to give you $1,000 living stipend. It's
Okay.
expected that you're going to use that stipend towards apartment rental or whatever the case may be. Many of our companies do help out with that. So
Okay.
I know when my nephew was co-oping and he was engineering, he was co-oping in Columbus. The company that he co-opted with actually had townhouses for co-op students that they
Okay.
rented to the students. So we don't just tell you find the co-op, pack your bags and go. Our co-op office is going to help you out with that. Now, I have had students who have had co-ops in Cleveland, and they'll go back home and live with a parent again, and then maybe pocket that living stipend, but we help you out with that. And if you have a co-op in Cincinnati, you could still stay in the residence halls if you wanted to.
Okay.
So I tell students, don't worry about that part. Let's worry about getting you that dream co-op or internship.
Okay. That's great.
Mhm.
It's kind of going off of what you just said with residential living and
Mhm.
finding places to live near or on or around campus.
Mhm.
Um, do you have a residency requirement at UC?
Yes, first year students are required to live on campus. After your first year, you can live off campus if you like. Most students live off campus in their sophomore year. It's really a personal preference.
Okay.
I will say that there are a lot of rumors out there that UC has a housing crisis. Um, that was true in 2020. It definitely was. And what happened was we had a residence hall that was being remodeled. It holds 850 beds, and it was supposed to open that fall, and it didn't get finished.
Okay.
So that started our little housing crisis. But right now, I think we only have one residence hall left to remodel. We are actually in the process. We will have a new one opening up in the fall of 26. So that is under construction as we speak. And then around campus, there's a lot for students that choose to live off campus. Of course, there's fraternities, sororities. There's a lot of apartments. In fact, if you came to campus or you come to campus, there's a building that overlooks the soccer field, and
Okay.
that is an apartment building, but it's not UC owned. So that's considered off campus, even though it's looking right over the soccer field. So there
Okay.
are options, and trying to dispel those rumors, because yes, we did have a problem about 4 years ago, but that has been rectified.
Okay, that's good to know. And I think that's sometimes with parents and students is a concern that they have, especially when they're looking at an urban campus.
Mhm.
Because sometimes if we're sending students to New York and Boston and DC,
Sure.
sometimes housing isn't guaranteed,
Right.
or it's guaranteed for the first year or two, but then the expectation is in that sophomore, junior, senior year, you need to find off-campus housing. And it's $3,000 a month for like a little efficiency apartment, which that's just not sustainable. So I'm glad, and I know, being in the Midwest, that things feel like they're a little bit more affordable, but it's still a city. Like even in
Mhm.
Cleveland, like it would be hard to find like a really a good apartment for under $1,000 a month
Right.
down Cleveland. So
Right.
I'm glad that there are options that are reasonable and
Mhm.
accessible for your students. They don't have to go to another neighborhood or um, things like that. What about as far like transportation? And then I'll move on to something else. Like, can a first year student have a car on campus?
Yes. Students can have a car on campus, absolutely. They do have to register with parking services. They get the little hang tag for the rear view mirror.
Perfect.
So the cost will depend on where you're parking. So surface lots are the least expensive. I don't even know if we have, I think we have a few left, but we've put up garages. So the garages are the mid-range. I always joke, if you really love your vehicle, park in the Conservatory of Music garage. It's heated and air conditioned, not
Yeah,
because we love our cars, but because students love their instruments.
gotcha.
So the Conservatory of Music is climate controlled for that purpose. But students, yes, students can have a car. If not, there is a shuttle bus. So if students want to go somewhere, or if they're a nursing student and have a class at the medical campus and it's raining and they don't want to walk over, there is a shuttle bus that runs continuously all around campus, and we'll go to our regional campus as well if you have a class out there. So we do have some students who start at the regional campus who are living on the main campus. They can take the shuttle.
Okay.
Um, there is an app so you can see where the shuttle is at any one time. So if it's raining and you're like, okay, I'm going to wait till it shows up, you can do that. And
Okay.
then, of course, being in a city, you can take the Cincinnati bus line. Your student ID will get you a discount. And if you want to go downtown and take in some of the restaurants, or a Cincinnati Reds game, you can head downtown and do that too.
Okay. Very cool. Is there any type you mentioned like if you have students that are at regional campuses that are going to commute to Maine or they live at Maine and commute elsewhere? Do you have any type of like bridge program? So perhaps you have a student that wants one of your premier programs like an
Mhm.
engineering or health sciences or DAP, but maybe not academically strong enough to get in on the first try. Can they enroll at Claremont or Blue Ash and kind of like seamlessly make that transition over there? Or do you have
Yes.
anything kind of like that?
Yes. English 101 is English 101, whether you take it at a regional campus or you take it on the main campus. The difference between the the populations is UC Blue Ash, which is where we refer most students who are not prepared to go into a campus at a program at Maine, is smaller class sizes, more hands-on. Typically, students spend 1 year at Blue Ash. So, for example, business is typically the one where we see referrals, because business requires pre-calculus. Because in your first year, in no matter what your major in business, you have to take applied business calc. Statistics isn't going to help you. You need the pre-calc in high school. So a lot of our students, they might start at UC Blue Ash. When they finish their math series, they can seamlessly transfer in. What I tell students, and this is going to be for UC, I think I speak for everybody, University of Akron, everybody, work with your advisor. Don't just pick classes like this will work, this will work. Work with your advisor, because they are the ones who know exactly what is going to transition over from one campus to what is going to apply to your intended degree in the future. We see a lot of referrals with nursing.
Okay. Yeah,
We
that's
get,
probably a popular one.
yeah, this year we had, I think, well over 2,000, maybe 2,500 nursing applications, and we take 200. So it's about a 1 in 10 shot of getting into nursing. And frequently it's because of a grade in chemistry that students don't get into nursing the first try. Again, I tell students there is a pathway, but please do work with your advisor to make sure you're taking the right courses to get into that future major.
So let's talk real quickly about test scores. I mean, I know that you're a test optional school, but
Right.
like again, in a more specific major that requires aptitudes in math and science, like do you utilize that at all to help judge if a student will be academically successful or ready to go?
We're test optional across the board.
Okay.
So I suggest students if you don't want to pay for the test to be sent to us or you don't want to submit it, it's okay. We're going to go by what is presented on your transcript and your GPA. Cases where I suggest test scores. If you're applying for a competitive program, for example, if a student, and this is where I tell students, call me, I will tell you, I will advise you. So for example, in engineering, if you've got above a 26 on the ACT, I suggest sending it because it
Okay.
only adds to your application. Or let's say you didn't do so well because something occurred. Um, I, I could give you all kinds of examples, but maybe a student has a 2.5 GPA, but they have a 30 ACT. Okay. I had a case like that, and the reasons behind it is because he wasn't in school too much because he lost his father to cancer.
Hmm.
So there's extenuating circumstances, but hey, he had a 30 ACT. It wasn't because he wasn't going to school. He just had some things going on in his life. That's
Yeah.
where I would suggest to a student send that score because your GPA doesn't represent really who you are. So my best advice is call your admissions counselor. You know, if it's UC, it's going to be me from Northeast Ohio, and we will advise you. Yes, no, send it, don't send it. Let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think as IECs too, we're very keen on the fact that it is a holistic admissions process. And, unfortunately, our young people have to go through some hard stuff, or,
Yes.
whether it's, in their home life or maybe something that's been undiagnosed or,
Right.
whatever it might be. So to get the whole picture is really important to
Exactly.
feel that you have an opportunity to display that on an application and the additional information session. But it's really, I think, a good, if there's some schools that you're really, really vying for and you want a spot and you need that competitive edge to kind of make up for a lack in a GPA or that specific course or something, like reach out to those counselors. They are there to be advocates for you and they want to get to know you and make the case for you if you really want to be a part of that particular class or program. So that's a really good point, Paula.
And you mentioned the
Um,
holistic. I mean, it's
mhm,
not just, I can't, if you tell me your GPA and your major, I can't tell if you're going to get in or not because we do require the Common App essay. We require a personal statement. We
mhm.
require the activity list. And students don't fill out that activity list completely. And that's something that, okay, I have so many students who listed that they play a sport, yet they forget to write down that they did a career shadow or that they volunteered, they did community service. And so many students say, well, that was required for school. It was required for high school, but you did it. So
Yeah,
put it in there, put it down. We want to know, what are you doing besides staring at a textbook? What do you do after school? Are you going home and playing video games? Or are you working a part-time job? And
yeah,
this really plays into, and I go back to nursing, they love to see that you've worked drive-through at a restaurant
yeah, yeah.
because in a health field, it's high pressure and you got to think on your feet and you're dealing with the public.
Hmm.
You got that same experience working the drive-through at a fast food restaurant where you have to deal with people. So put it down because it gives us the whole picture of you.
Yeah, that's a really good parallel. I worked with a student last year who was so embarrassed that she worked as a cashier at a local grocery store. She's like, people don't want to know that. They don't care. I'm like, yes, they do. And to your same point, I'm like, you're working with the public. You're going to have people that are disgruntled. You are going to be asked like a multitude of different things. But, and like you were right, like, what are you working towards for the money? Are you working towards having a Cedar Point summer pass? Are you working for your college? Like, I
Right.
think that gives a lot of context. And even students too, I think it tells a big story. If maybe if you are, a caretaker because we do see, students have to just, they don't have an opportunity to be involved in clubs or organizations or get a job because maybe they've got a second grade sibling at home and mom and dad work as
Right.
high pressure jobs or they're in the medical field and they're not home until late or work the night shift. So I think giving that full context,
Mhm.
to not be embarrassed of that, like that's your story and you need to amplify it the best way you can.
Not at all. It's what makes you you, and it might be some of those things that you've experienced that are driving you to this career as well. So
Definitely.
we need to know those things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, I have a few more questions. Let's talk real quick about scholarships. And
Mhm,
my colleague Jamie has done this awesome hidden scholarships blog. So essentially, when you're applying to UC, you send in your holistic application, it's reviewed, and then you are able to give, merit-based aid
mhm,
to students that would qualify.
mhm,
Is there anything additional that's available? Maybe it's per major, maybe it's like a named scholarship or opportunity that someone could log back in
mhm.
and apply for to get that extra money if they're really looking for something additional.
So for first year students, so right now it'd be for the class of 25. The common application is the scholarship application.
Okay.
So we have rolled that all into one. So I tell students, when you are filling out that essay, when you are filling out that activity list, remember it's not just admissions looking at that application, it's scholarships and honors are looking at that same application. So for first year, for incoming students, for those that are seniors, the Common App is your scholarship application. You don't have to do anything further. So that is for merit-based, what we call our Cincinnatus, and then our colleges. So the College of Engineering has awards, the College of DAP has awards, etc.
Okay.
Once a student is a student at UC, they can log into and a lot of schools have this scholarship universe and put your information in, and that will give you UC scholarships that, you know, um, my daughter's going to be an archaeology major. There may be something for archaeology in there. And those are typically major based awards are typically one time, where our merit based are continued for like our Cincinnati, you maintain a 3.0 GPA, you will have that scholarship throughout your college career. You can change your major, it doesn't matter. But then there are major based scholarships as well. Students typically see more major based opening up in their junior year because you're less likely to change your major. So Common App for first years, and then from that point on, we utilize through our financial aid office scholarship universe.
Okay. More major based opportunities open up.
Definitely in the later years.
Okay.
Because we don't want to give you a nursing scholarship your first year and then you change the next semester. I had 5 majors in college, so I completely get it. Uh,
Yeah.
but it's tough when you get something that is major based. So in the beginning, in that first year, it doesn't matter your major, it's going to go with you throughout your college career.
Okay. That's good. Good to know. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with Scholarship Universe. I feel like a lot of the Ohio public
Yes,
schools use it. But typically, that doing a really solid job on your first year freshman application and racking up that merit-based 4-year renewable scholarship is the best way
right.
to go. But again, be mindful that you can log into that scholarship universe and chip away at $1,000 here, $500 there. Like it'll definitely be
It'll
helpful.
start to add up.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we've got about 3 more minutes, so let me ask
Okay,
you 2 more questions.
sure.
Um, What would you say, like, do you offer any special services for students that are needing additional academic support? So I feel like every single college has like disability services,
Yes. Yep.
accommodations. Is there
Yes.
anything
We
on
call it
top of that?
accessibility resources.
Okay.
I will tell you the folks over there are great. Michael Southern's the director. They're amazing. Um, and I always tell students, even if you think, well, I'm not going to use that. We had a student one year who on spring break went skiing and came back with 2 broken wrists. Can't take notes, can't take tests. So
Wow.
had to utilize their services to have someone take notes for him and have someone hold the pencil while he took the test and, verbally did the answers. I heard we had a student who had, I forget the name of it, where they could not stay awake and
Hmm.
they would fall asleep. So accessibility resources got them a stand-up
Epilepsy?
narcolepsy, got them a stand-up desk. And they had a stand-up desk in every one of their classes so that they had to stand and the student didn't fall asleep. So
Wow.
they will help students. If you had an IEP, talk with them about if there's any services from there.
Mhm.
Outside of that, outside of accessibility resources, we do have our Learning Commons, which is not just tutoring, but if you just want someone to proofread, if you are suddenly, oh my gosh, I get so anxious when I have to go take a math test. They'll help you out with test anxiety, studying strategies, things like that. And that's in our Learning Commons, and that's for every student. And I encourage students to go over there. Just maybe you just need to brush up on your study skills. They'll help you out with that as well.
Yeah, yeah, we really push our students to just take that initiative and advocate for yourself because especially college, nobody's doing it for you. Nobody's rolling you out of
Exactly.
bed, filling your backpack with all the things that you need for the next day. Um,
Exactly.
it's hard, because that's not the most exciting thing to go, the first week of school, you don't want to be introducing yourself to the people at accessibility services, but
Right.
you know, getting that, especially if you do need a service, if you've been on a 504, an IEP, if you have something that's documented that you could, you don't want to wait till you bomb a test and get an F and then seek out
Exactly.
services. So just knowing like being an adult, being a mature adult and getting that taken care of. But I love that you mentioned just, the academic resource centers. You don't have to be, have a neurodiversity or learning disability to access that. You could just be someone who gets really anxious or someone who's
Right.
like really not focused or struggling with a writing piece or something. So I'm glad that's
Exactly.
available.
Mhm.
All right, let's take this home. So who would you say, you've been there for, you said 24 years, so you should have a pretty good answer for either one of these questions, and I always give one or
Uh-huh.
the other. Who has been the most exciting guest or speaker at UC since you've been a member of the community, or maybe the most interesting alumnus, which I'm sure is probably a little bit easier, but so you could pick either one to answer.
Wow. Um, I think some of the alumni, I mean, there's famous people, of course. We have our College Conservatory of Music, which is interesting because our students take off and fly before they graduate, especially in musical theater. So at one point, for Wicked, we had the Witch of the East in Chicago.
Oh,
It was the
cool.
opposite. And the Witch of the West was on Broadway. So we have a lot of folks that we have many Oscar winners for behind the scenes. The gentleman that did a lot of the special effects for Star Wars, for that is a UC alum. Architects, oh gosh, his name escapes me. Um, oh, he's done a lot of case and he actually designed one of our buildings too. Um,
Okay.
so if I said the names, it's not like, oh, Taylor Swift. Oh my gosh, it's
Kelsey, I thought you were going to say Travis Kelsey, and I was
yeah,
like,
I mean, people know that, but if I
yeah.
said the names, but then talk about, well, they're a famous architect. They've done this. We're the birthplace of Benadryl. So Dr. Rivashal, Rivashal Hall. So we're the birthplace of Benadryl and the polio vaccine, the oral polio vaccine. So a lot happening over in our medical area as well.
That's awesome. Very cool. I love, and I think you're right. Those people would be like pioneers in their field. So if you're someone who's
Exactly.
really into pharmaceuticals, you're like, oh my gosh, I know that name. Or
Neil Armstrong was a professor at UC for a time in our aerospace engineering.
that's a good claim to fame. I like that. Well, very good. Well, thank you so much, Paula, for taking the time and telling us about
Oh.
UC. It's truly such a unique place.
Mhm.
I feel like academically with the co-op and just some of the like niche programs that you are really well known for. The campus is very unique. And again, if you're an Ohioan, the price tag is great because it is one of the Ohio publics. But
Mhm.
we work with students all over the US and international. So it definitely has a draw outside of the US and we're happy to share. So thanks again for joining us and I look forward to being in touch.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.